haven't counted. The first thing I want to do today is go over some of the different resources you have as you think and develop your Watson project. I'll detail a little bit the different things you need to be thinking about. Um, and then what to expect. That's especially, true for, I mean, especially relevant for the rising seniors, what exactly will happen in terms of the process. But hey, those of you who might have a whole other year to know how the process goes, it's definitely helpful as well, what to expect. And then we'll have time for questions. Um, one thing so the first, yeah, let me share my PowerPoint. Let me put it there and there. The problem is now I can't see my notes. Yeah, that's so. I hope I don't forget. I hope my PowerPoint gives me enough information. So I've been in touch with many of you and I've sent some resources, right, which are basically a few websites. So I'll run through them, and as I kind of show you what you'll find there, it'll give me the opportunity to talk about some important aspects you need to keep in mind as you develop your project. Before anything, let me just say one thing about this process, because the Watson is a completely unusual beast. There's no other fellowship that can be compared to the Watson. So some of you might have heard me say I'm even discouraging you from looking at samples, applications, or sample topics that have won Watsons, because this is not like you're taking a course, the professor assigns a paper, and you want to see samples because it'll give you, information on how to do it right. It doesn't work like that. In fact, it's even a bad idea to see what others have done, because it should be your project. And I'm going to also, add to this another caveat. I'm here to help you, but I'm not here to read like drafts. Because again, it should be yours. It's not something you're trying to get just right. It doesn't work like that. Okay? Show your drafts to other people so they can maybe take a look and tell you whether, there's no holes, whether it's understandable. But we have to be very careful, even at the college level, how much feedback input we give you, because it should be very much your project. David, yeah?
Yes, I just wanted to double check Allison started the recording.
I did.
Okay.
Thank you. And here's our assistant, David. So, okay, with that in mind, and I'll come back to, what makes a good Watson. You'll get over and in at different points that kind of information. So, the first place where you get information is this website, this Colby website, which is part of Campus Study. So at the top, you have the URL. Ali will put on the chat box those links that you can then copy and, bookmark them. So this first website here, you have some very brief information on what the Watson is. Yes, it's something that you do after your senior year. It is extremely selective. Even at the level of the participating schools. We say about 40 winners from a pool of 160 nominated from about 40 small liberal arts college. Last we checked, last year it was 41 schools. So imagine we're one of 41 schools. Imagine how many colleges there are in the States. It is already that, in that sense, an extremely kind of, competitive situation. And schools have to be invited. So it's not something we decided. The foundation has to invite us. They give you some details on, how the selection works. You can read that. The next important website, this is now going more into really more detailed information, is also Colby. Yes, and this will be updated. Obviously, it'll become the full 25, and I think Allison already changed it. Um, Actually, the deadline, our internal deadline remains the same this year. It'll be the 3rd of October, 2025. This, by the way, to access to this website, you need a password. The password is Eustace with or without capital. You can write it either way. If you forget, just ask us and we'll give you the password. But there you'll have more details. For instance, on that page, you will find the content of the application. So, and I'll go into detail, as a little bit later, but just let's over kind of look at everything that goes in it. There's a personal statement, which is 1,200 words long, a project proposal. Allison, I think we need to edit that. I just saw it. I didn't even notice it when I took a screenshot. That too is 1,200 words. Quickly, by the way, those two, when you write, will have to be double spaced. And I really recommend that you fill the entire space. Now, because you upload those two texts on a website, it will not allow you to put 1,201 words. It will stop at 1,200, but do try to go to the maximum. If write 800 words, will notice it. It will not feel like it's a completely, really well thought out proposal or statement. You need to boil down your project into a title and an abstract. The abstract is just 100 words. Some of you might have had to do abstracts for papers, so you do something similar, but for your proposal. We need additional materials. And there's space for three different kind of appendices. One is the budget. This, you have to put it. Another is a list of contacts. And then if you want to add anything else that helps kind of flesh out your dossier, you can add it. The budget is very important because it shows how much preparation has gone into your proposal. I always like to say, when you plan for a trip, you think about where you want to go, where you want to stay, where you will fly from, and to where. And so then all you need to do is to see approximately how much, that would cost. There's been cases where we've asked, additional information in the budget. So you need to try to be as specific as possible. Again, it's a proof of how you've been thinking about it. Obviously, we're not going to fund projects or select people with projects that are just like, oh, just a whim, a thought you just had. The way the Watson is really conceived is something you're truly passionate about. I'll have plenty of occasions to go back to that. The contacts, start collecting them. And by the time you submit your application, so on October the 3rd, you don't need to have contacted everybody on your contact list, but you should start, at least finding possible contacts. And when you fill your application, you will be able to say whether this is a contact that you've actually, connected with, or whether you just have the name as a possible contact. And it can be individual people, it can be institutions, it can be, um, in museums, you name it, right? but you should start collecting them. And that too shows the depth of your preparation. Personal information, very brief postgraduate plans. And now keep in mind that your Watson does not need to be a direct development out of your major or something that leads to what you will do when you come back, you know, to reality. Okay? We can talk more about what makes a good Watson. Medical information, this is, for safety reasons, a very brief biographical abstract. We want a list of all the things you've done on campus. So in a way, you're kind of deconstructing a little bit your resume and putting the kind of information that belongs to your resume in different sections in the application. Awards, employment, education history. Okay, M is very important. It's the past travel. And you should be as specific as possible. So say, what countries, it'll ask you for what reason and the length. And I want, you know, don't try to double guess what you should answer, whether you think the foundation wants someone who's traveled a lot or someone who's not traveled at all. Just be honest and put the travel you've done and where, for how long, and for what purpose. I'll come back to that. Um, you need to think about where what will happen linguistically in the places you want to visit. Do you have any linguistic knowledge or not? It's okay if you don't. You will have enough money if you plan your budget well to hire a translator, an interpreter. This being said, not all topics might be conducive to have a third party present and translating. This is, again, something you have to think about. We will need um, your transcript. At that point, an unofficial transcript is okay, and then a photo. Let me, before we go to what you have next to it, which is, more information on those different things, let me talk about some of those elements that we've gone through. For instance, past travel. This gives me the occasion to talk about one of the big rules that really, again, is unique to Watson. And I like to summarize it as the rule of no return. You're basically not supposed to go back to a country where you've already been. Well, the Watson Foundation says it's a country where you've spent a certain amount of time, and their cutting point is 4 weeks. Okay? This being said, if you studied abroad in Beijing and want to go to Mongolia, or you studied abroad in Sao Paulo and you want to go to deep in the Amazonian forest, you're okay, right? When the country is very, very big and you go to a completely different place, culturally, linguistically, ethnically, it's rural while you were in an urban center, you're fine. But when in doubt, check with us. And when I am in doubt, I can check with the foundation. Um, we'll talk more about countries in a minute. Let's see. You will need, yes, so we can go to the second column. This is kind of telling you a little bit about the process. For those of you who will be applying this fall, you will need to be cleared by me. Basically, this will allow you to start your application on the foundation's portal. At that point, you will be able to enter the names and emails of the two people who will be your recommenders. So this is also really good that you're on the Zoom today, so I can tell you about that because it's something you should start thinking as soon as possible. Those two recommenders, at least one of them must be from Colby or have been at Colby, someone who taught you at Colby. So you might have a favorite professor with whom you worked very closely, or a coach. who really knows you well, but has left Colby, that person is perfectly okay to recommend you for the Watson. But at least one has to be affiliated or have had that connection with Colby. It's important that you identify those people now because the Watson letter of recommendation is a very peculiar thing. Your recommenders have not written that before. Believe me, I've written quite a few in my time. It takes a lot of time. So I'm going to show you the beginning of the form, right? On our website, you see there's a hyperlink where you can go and download the recommendation form. So I recommend you download that yourself, share it with your recommenders as soon as possible so they can start thinking about it. There's very specific questions that really only belong to Watson and not stuff they have in the letter they've already written for you for, internships or uh, jobs or whatever. So share it as soon as possible so they can really start preparing because it takes a lot of time to write a good Watson letter of recommendation. Okay, the other place where you have important information is the foundation website itself, um, where again it describes what it is. Notice the language they use. It's a 1-year grant that you know for purposeful, independent exploration outside of the United States. That is another thing I need to tell you, and you need to be aware of that. You are not allowed to come back during that year. There are some very rare cases of emergencies that would then allow you to come back. That and it will have to be cleared by the foundation. The whole idea of the Watson is to stretch yourself, to really put you out of your comfort zone and to really discover something about you. So this gives me another opportunity to tell you what the Watson Fellowship is about. It's the brainchild of Thomas Watson, who was the founder of IBM. And his idea was that you needed, some reason my iPad is ringing, sorry. You need to explore whatever you're passionate about. You need this opportunity to do it over, a good chunk of time before really, going to grad school or entering the work world. The beauty of the Watson is that you do that, whatever you want to do over the course of a year, and there's no product needed. So you don't need to say, I want to do a Watson, so I write a novel or I make a film. The product, it's you. So that's why it has to be about something that you're truly passionate about, something that is truly and completely you. Okay? So, on that Watson Foundation page, you will find a webinar that you should watch. You will also find, again, uh, now this repeats a little bit what we've already seen in the Colby website, but what is the application process? Like, I am your campus advisor, so we're already kind of meeting. Here you have a little bit of details over on what the personal statement is about, and also what your project statement should be about. And when you read those two, you start seeing something that's very important. And again, very Watson, is that the two really intersect. Basically, when you write your project statement, it should lead you to explain why that project is for you, right? Given who you are, that's your project. And then conversely, when we read the project statement, we should be thinking, oh, of course, with that type of project, this is something Katie should be doing. It's her. And that's why the foundation talks about the fit. That is really about how those two statements go together. So yes, I will tell you a little bit more about the process after we select you next. I'll come next. But again, what can help you think about how you write those things, those two texts, is to kind of reverse engineer what the foundation looks for. Just so you know, I'm not saying lie and try to fit those things, but this is what the Watson is about. They think in terms of criteria concerning both the person and the project. And I used to be kind of disturbed by leadership because I would think, that might not fit everybody. This might kind of select people to a very specific kind of profile, but we shouldn't think about that like that. In fact, the foundation has um, a question they ask of everybody, and that is, what can you give us an example of something that would have not happened if it weren't for your intervention in participation? And you can imagine then situations where it's not, you can be behind the scenes, you can be a very kind of more introvert kind of person, and yet things would not have happened if it weren't for you. So that is the way they think about, for instance, leadership. But you see other criteria: imagination, independence, of course, emotional maturity. If you're going to be on your own for an entire year, not being able to come home because you feel all of a sudden homesick, courage, integrity, resourcefulness, obviously, responsibility. And then specific criteria for the project. It has to be organic. It has to really belong to you. Of course, it has to be inspiring first and foremost for yourself. Open. That's the thing. If you know what you're going to be finding, we won't select you. Um, it has to be bold, or else, why should you go abroad, right? It has to be realistic, connected, and three-dimensional to really open up, right? Lots of doors. Um, so here are the expectations. I've already addressed some of them. Eh, I'll talk a little bit about the whole selection process, but the decision is announced in March. So then the following August, you depart. As I said, you have to stay outside of the US. Now, when you choose your countries, you have to also be realistic and remain safe. The Watson is meant to stretch you, but not endanger you. So you cannot choose to go to countries that are listed level 3 or 4 on the State Department list. And you could be traveling to a country that when you were, drafting your proposal were 1 or 2, and then out of the blue, as you're already there, get escalated to, 3 or 4, you've got to get out of it. Okay, so you need to be also flexible. You will have to submit quarterly reports, and in August there's a conference for the returning fellows. So, and you become part of a club. It's an amazing thing. So let me stop the share so I can now see you better, and I can also check that I've told you some more things. The transcript. Let me tell you why we want to have a transcript, and the foundation asks for the transcript in the application, but we look at it. But I need to explain a little bit how we look at it. It's not for the grades. So, you know, if there's anybody here tonight whose grades are not fabulous, don't think, okay, not for me, they want the transcript. We look at the transcript at least the committee on campus, in a very specific way. Since the Watson is supposed to be about something that you're truly passionate about, and we know that at Colby there are courses offered that touch upon your passion, Don't you think it might look a little strange if we see that you've never taken those courses, right? I mean, if you're really crazy about a topic, you will use every opportunity to get exposed to it, right? So that's one reason we would be looking a little bit at what you've taken. But again, it doesn't, your project does not need to be completely, dependent on your major, for instance. It can be something you're passionate about besides your major and besides your professional plans. Also, some projects might require or might benefit, let's put it like that, from a certain type of training that you could receive in some classes. You know, some interviewing techniques that you might learn, for instance, in anthropology, or you want to photographically document things. Um, well, it would be interesting to know that you have some good background in photography, and we offer photography courses. I mean, just to take an example, right? So it's really to see, it helps fleshing out our understanding of how deep your passion for that subject is. Let's see what else I should add that I haven't covered. Um, yeah, that's about it for, I think, what we expect to see in those different areas. The proposal, start thinking about what it is that you really want to do. Start thinking about what are the best places to do that, and try to find places where you're not observing the same things several times, right? So try to find countries where you can really experience different facets of whatever topic it is. And then you have to think about what's the most logical way of, traveling. uh, that's where the budget comes into play, because some people might need to be in certain places because of, say, a festival, but you couldn't be 1 month in Australia, the next month in Europe, the following month in Japan, and then the following month back in, I don't know, in South America. You see what I mean? And be doing such huge air travel that it's going to swallow your money, or you will worry if you tell us that you want to spend 6 months in Zurich and 6 months in Hong Kong, because I don't think, even though the Watson money seems quite generous, it's not going to be sufficient, right, to be in some of the most expensive cities on earth. So that's where you are really thinking about all those aspects. Um, Yes. Okay, let me quickly tell you about the whole selection process very briefly. Um, by October the 3rd, you file your entire um, um, dossier. Then there's a committee on campus that will read your application. And typically at Colby, not all schools do that, but typically we do it unless we have too many applicants, but we normally interview every single applicant. So the moment you file it, you will get a personal interview with a committee. It's typically about 15 minutes. And it might feel like an inquisition tribunal, right? There'll be a barrage of people staring at you and grilling you. But we do that to kind of test your proposal and to see how we can help you improve it. Okay? So it might feel very intimidating, but it's for a good reason. That means that once we select, we are entitled to four nominees. We will work with those nominees, kind of pulling among ourselves what things we've noticed need some work, and kind of suggesting how the nominees can improve their application. We might say, hey, your budget is really insufficient. Can you please flesh it out? And then by November the 5th, that's the deadline for the National Foundation. So we'll be in touch. I mean, if you're nominated, you and I will be in touch. So I will tell you, okay, go ahead, enter. And at that point, it's gone. It's, you know, at the foundation. At the foundation, at some point, they will read every single dossier. Your dossier, if you're nominated, will go accompanied by a supporting letter from us, right? So a piece of is added to the dossier, which is the campus committee. I mean, as with me as the chair, saying why we chose you. Then someone will come to Colby, a representative from the foundation. They're always former fellows, and will conduct an hour-long interview. And that interview in itself is quite interesting because very often we've had nominees who did that interview, came out of the interview and said, we didn't talk about my project. And the reason is very simple, because your project might be described in, your application. And since Watson is about the person, that means that sometimes the interviewer just wants to know who you are, right? Then the interviewer will also write a report, and that report is added to your dossier. And then the foundation reads everything, and that's when they make the final decision, which, as I said, will be announced on mid-March, actually on the 13th of March. So let me recap a few other important things. This I will repeat it, but I think it's so important that the project needs to be something you are truly passionate about. Please, you guys, don't choose something that you think it sounds Watson. Because the last thing you want, if for some strange fluke, believe me, that can't happen because they're too savvy at the foundation. But if for some really strange reason you get selected, do you want to be traveling the world doing something you're not really interested about? No. So it must be something you're truly passionate about. Oh, okay. This gives me an opportunity to tell you something that's very important that you should know. So I'm old. I've been at Colby for 30, I think now it's 31 years. I've been on the Watson committee for 26 years. Never have I heard someone who either applied, didn't get selected, applied, got selected, applied, got selected, and won. None of them ever said that applying was not worth it, even when they didn't get it. It is a very transformational kind of exercise. So it is worth doing it. It's strange. It's not something you've done. You've written about yourself when you applied for Colby, but think about how different you are now, right? So that personal statement is very revealing in a way, and you can really learn a lot about yourself. And dreaming a project that you're passionate about, even if you don't get to do it, it's about yourself, and you can really discover very important things about yourself. I mean, one of my best friends is a Colby grad who applied to Watson. So the guy is in his 50s now. He didn't get it. I don't even think we nominated him. I was already at Colby when he graduated. He still thinks about his project. And he's not thinking about it as in, oh, it's so unfair, I didn't get it. But having dreamt it was really transformational. I already talked about the fit between the personal statement and the project. So think about that. What project is really you? And weave that into your two statements. Remember that it doesn't need to have an end product. The end product is you. Sure, if you produce something, that's fine, but it's not a requirement. And finally, this is very, very important. You need to choose a project that can only be carried as a Watson. It should be something that you can do in grad school. It should not be something you could do as an intern or as, work. It has to be something that can only be done thanks to a Watson Fellowship. Of course, you can be observing, shadowing, even contributing to a non-for-profit or some institution. But if you are interested in doing something like that, be very careful that the time you spend with these people is your time, right? That you are a fly on the wall, maybe contributing, but that you're not an employee, an official intern, or any of that. So that is absolutely critical. And we're very careful not to select um, projects that really feel like this is for grad school. This is, a dissertation topic, or what you're proposing is basically what you will do when you go to grad school and then you go do field research for your PhD. So that's, oh yeah, a few tidbits that are important. Foreign students may apply, absolutely. And um, if you are considering applying to grad school during your senior year, most programs are perfectly okay with you if you get the Watson, delaying starting grad school. They're in fact so thrilled to have a Watson fellow that they're not going to say no, it's now or never, more often than not. Also, the foundation will reimburse student loans during that year. So I think those are the main kind of uh, points I wanted to touch upon, which means that I can open the floor to your questions. Yeah, Flossie, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I just have a quick question about the budget. How, like, I know you said in depth, but I'm assuming like flight prices and stuff, not like daily meals or grocery estimates and stuff like that.
Estimates. You
Yes.
nailed it. Estimates. You know, and there's all kinds of information out there, like what is the cost? I mean, how much, what you find in terms of, lodging in this place and the average, shopping in this place. This is information you can get. It's very rough, but just to show that you've really thought about it. And airfare again, we know it can change, but that you're realistic. I mean, if you tell me, oh, I can fly to Singapore for $40, right? David, did you raise your hand? Yeah.
Yes, I have five questions.
Okay. What?
The first is a kind of a follow-up from Flossie's question. Must the budget use all the money?
Oh, by the way, you'll see that in the application you can also put equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, be real, maybe not to the penny, because I think it's maybe good to have a little a little kind of cushion. Um, by the way, one thing I could add to that, this gives me another idea of another thing you should keep in mind, which might um, relax you a little bit. This is something that can keep evolving. We're very aware that, our internal deadline is in October, the national deadline is the following month, and you're not leaving until, if you win, until the next August, right? So, for instance, you can still be developing, making contacts, as you've already filed your application, and you can even, when you meet, if we select you, when you meet with the representative, kind of update him or her or them on what you found. There's been cases when the representative says, I need additional information for your budget. Can you please get back to me? Or there's been cases where the representative said, well, there's a problem with that country. You shouldn't go there. Can you look for something else? And often it forces the applicant to think about places they hadn't thought about. So, it can change. And similarly, once you're already during doing your travel, you might, meet someone who tells you about an incredible place, and you decide to revise your itinerary. You need to clear it with a foundation, but that's completely okay as long as you clear it with a foundation. I know of the case of someone who did not do what they had said to do, and they cut the money.
Mm.
But there's flexibility, and you should in fact continue. Look, if you're that passionate about it, you're going to keep thinking about it, isn't it? Whether it's filed or not, right? So you can still continue thinking about those things. Question number 2.
Question number 2. How many nominees does the committee at Kobe select?
4.
Okay. Question number 3. Um, what's the password for the Kobe website? Again, you
Oh,
mentioned it briefly.
I think, Ali, you put it in the chat, right? It's in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Oh, the password is Eustace, and it's in
Eustace. Okay, there it is. Okay.
Eustace. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Um,
and if you look at the chat, oh, and I think, yeah, well, the chat shows also in the recording we'll have the stuff we're writing, isn't it? Maybe not what we'll post. I don't know. I'm not too savvy on those things, but yeah.
I'm not sure, but you can email either of us
Yeah.
anytime and we can give you the password.
Exactly. See what a secret password it is. Next
the
question.
next question. What images or recordings are optional to submit? I think you touched briefly on it, but I wasn't sure exactly.
Additional. So but we need the budget, we need contacts. That is, that's non-negotiable. The third area, so imagine someone who's an artist might want to upload images of their art. Oh, our fellow by um, um, uh, Hannah, right? No, what's her name? Ella uploaded, who just won, uploaded a little film that she happened to have made, uh, I think even the previous year, but because she wanted to study frogs and that kind of animals. That film involved frogs, and so if something adds to who you are, we've had, if you play music, you might, upload a clip of you playing, or it's not an obligation, but it's there if you want to add something. Not an obligation at all. Was that the fifth question? I've lost
Now the
track.
fourth, the final question. Um, have you heard of students working on and submitting grad school or medical school applications during the Watson?
Yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's your time. You can budget and plan to be doing what you need to do, because you'll need downtime.
Yeah.
So, and this, in fact, is, oh, by the way, one question we always ask our the people we interview. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, when you're developing your proposal. What will you be doing on a day-to-day basis? And it's important to think, why do you need to go to this particular place? To do what? And how much time you need in that place? And you kind of go from the big picture to smaller when you think, okay, I need to go to this country, I need to go to this city, I need to maybe spend time in this neighborhood. What am I doing there? How much time do I need in that specific place to really accomplish what I, get to know people, then accomplish what I want to accomplish. So, and then what is the flow of a typical day in my Watson year? Anything else?
Can I
No,
just add
that
something to that?
Absolutely.
Also consider how you might kind of like maintain your own routines and how you're not going to burn out as you're traveling. Like what does your downtime look like and how are you going to manage your schedule alongside being in all of these different places throughout the course of the year?
Yeah. I mean, basically, do what people do when they plan a trip, kind of project yourself. Imagine living in that particular situation and place. Um, the foundation talks about certain projects being pain projects, where you're, studying something that emotionally is hard. Um, and you will be asked if you're someone considering that type of project, um, what will you be doing for your mental health to not get completely, crushed under the weight of the pain you'll be experiencing, vicariously by interacting with people who are either helping people who've been through terrible situations, or the people themselves. So again, think about all the reality of that trip. For instance, one of our fellows, Hannah, her project was running and also nutrition. And so one thing we asked her is, okay, what will, and most of her Watson was running with people and talking with them and talking about the whole culture of running, and of course the nutrition questions associated with it. But one question we ask her is, what will you do if you injure yourself? What else will you be doing? I mean, if that's your whole Watson, then what's your plan B? We've had hilarious moments in the history of the committee. I mean, nobody who's been at that point on the committee has forgotten the time that there was someone who wanted to do street food, and one of the committee members. Has anybody ever had classes with Professor Deneux? So Guylain Deneux does research in the Sahara, and so speaks Arabic, and started mentioning some terrible digestive diseases, and describing, what might happen to this poor kid who wanted to go and eat street food. And it made it quite clear that the kid had not thought about potential problems of eating street food in foreign climes. And we don't like that. So try to imagine everything. Try to imagine you're actually doing the trip. Then we'll know that you've really thought about it really well. Anything else? Yes.
I just had one question. I was kind of looking through the list of projects and noticed that some people had primarily been in one country, whereas others had been to
Very good
multiple.
question. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
Daniel. It runs the gamut, right? It could be as little as one country. I mean, that's very rare. One, I can think of one. I mean, those of you who've been in my office, you might have noticed there are cones hanging at the top. Those were made by an art major who went to two countries, got the Watson and went to two countries. Um, could be 12 countries. It really depends on what you need to do. And choose those countries, really carefully, as in as I said, don't go to 4 places where you basically have 4 times the same situation. So try to think about what are the different facets of whatever, interests you that you can study. Now, that makes me think of one important thing. There's a very interesting balance that you need to try to strike between knowing enough to design your project, but still wanting to discover things, right? As I said, don't write a proposal where you say, this is what I want to go find, and this is what I will, prove. That's not a Watson, right? It's you saw the description in the foundation's website. It's a year of discovery. So think more in terms of research questions. But as you know from your own research, I'm sure in whatever field you've been studying, in order to formulate good research questions, you need background. You need to know more or less what you're dealing with. So that's where there's kind of a balance, right? Does
Thank
that
you.
help, Daniel? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Pleasure. Anything else? If not, you guys are amazing because we timed it so well. It's 7:57. So parting words. Oh, yes, one important thing. We will hold another informational session in person on September, what is it, the 8th, right, Ali? And that session, yeah, is it or not? Yeah. And that session will really be tailored. I mean, if you're on campus, the juniors, you're most welcome to come, but it's really tailored to the seniors because that session will take place basically less than a month before the application is due. So it's really to help you with your final push. And you know where to find me. We can talk about, if any question you have, but really, I need to repeat what I said at the beginning. It's your project. So, um, you need to find it for yourself. I cannot tell you who you are. I cannot tell you, what you must be doing. One of my predecessors used to say, the Watson should be what you've been put on earth to do. It feels kind of a little daunting, maybe. It doesn't need to be your life quest, but it's about you. Okay? So be in touch if you need to and come on September the 8th. And yeah, we're here. Now you know us. So great to see you all. And I look forward to hearing more about what you want to do. Bye.
Bye,
All right,
thank
thank
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.